Welcome, everybody. This is GB Podcasting with Cody and Brandon.
Yeah, what's good, guys?
And 3, 2, 1, and the red button is flashing.
Ooh, dude,
You know what that means?
Huh?
We're live.
Ooh. Dude, I'm telling you, the jingle was a nice addition. Honestly, it's a super nice ramp up for me just to have something to kind of vibe to before it's time to start talking.
Yes. Very significant start. Other
Yeah.
than us just going, hello.
Hi, we're here. Please listen to us.
All right. So how do you want to start on this? I feel like this is going to be kind of like a hard note to, like it's such a topic.
It is
at
kind of
first.
it's kind of a no
So
topic.
bear with us.
That poor damned old Ferdinand, man. He doesn't know what's coming for him.
So sad. Anyways, so Bobby and I, my brother, are leaving from my house. What was that, yesterday?
Yesterday.
And Cody's following us. Really don't really remember where we were headed or anything, but the main part of the story is that my neighbor has a steer that they keep along with many other animals, and the purpose for having this steer is to butcher and have meat from a backyard source. They feed it, they take care of it, and Saturday they are going to put a bullet in his head and
That's dark.
end his life.
That
Well,
was-
I mean, I told
that
you.
was
it's
super
like,
fucking
how else do you
dark.
want me? They put him down.
You know what I mean?
That is what they're going to do. They're going to put a bullet in that cow.
Yeah, but and this is like the third year or so that they've
Right.
done this.
I mean, not third year,
Not
but
third
third
year,
bull.
third cow.
Third, yes.
Yeah. So, the first one, Ferdinand Sr., was, I know we're on Ferdinand the third
I don't
now,
even
it's
know
throwing
that
me
they
off.
called him Ferdinand Sr., but
I-
we're going to rock with it.
Yeah, I don't know. All of these bulls are now Ferdinands to us somehow.
Yes.
But it was weird on that one. Like the first time they brought us meat from Ferdinand the Bull
Right.
was like it was just different. It was like, oh man, this is this cow that was a dick to us for so long. I mean, that cow was meaner than shit.
Yeah.
So I actually felt less bad about him getting killed because he was like the biggest asshole of any of the cows they've had so far.
Right.
He was, man. He's a dick.
He was a little aggressive.
He was. He hated the black trucks, and
Oh,
he was
yeah.
like super aggressive if they walked up to the pen.
Or
But-
if you ever, heaven forbid, I think we lost a football in there one time in their little lot, like the fenced-in area, and we had to go in and get it. And
Man, that you want to talk? We looked like a bunch of rodeo clowns in there trying to catch his fucking
it's
attention,
a good way to put it.
so that we didn't get murdered by a bull.
Absolutely.
That was like the most athletic I've ever been, is running from farm animals trying to knock my ass out.
No doubt.
But so Ferdinand the Third is about to get put down, and it's
Right.
a super odd situation to be in. I guess in our generation, it's just weird.
Right. Well, the thing that hit, the whole reason the conversation got started was that as we passed, sometimes you pass him and he doesn't even blink an eye at you. He could give no more shits than he does. But occasionally, like yesterday, he starts as soon as you pass where he can get
close,
to,
yeah.
and he just runs with the vehicles, just snorting, like
he gets
stomping.
aggressive.
It's, I guess, a way for him to just exert himself. I don't know. But Bobby makes the comment, "Run, Ferdinand, run. You better enjoy all the running you can." Because Saturday, he is not aware of this, but
He ain't running no more.
he won't be running anymore.
And a lot of people have the argument that raising an animal as a pet and then killing them even for a meat purpose is still somewhat immoral just because you've raised this. But at the same time, I would feel worse for him to just live and die for no purpose. I mean,
Right.
I get that you have pets to have pets, and Ferdinand would be an all right pet other than the fact that he's kind of a dick, but still not all the time an unsweet cow.
Mm-hmm.
But he was bred for a purpose, and they've taken phenomenal care of him
Oh, all of their
in
animals.
in his lifetime, and he's not going to a slaughterhouse to be like conveyor line. Like, this is something that carries weight to the people who are executing the thought of that they're going to kill him. Like, this is an animal they've raised as a calf to a full-grown bull, and that they're going to have to kill after he's been in their family for a year, 2 years, however long he's been here.
Right. And that was kind of where Bobby and I went with the conversation, talking about just, it's so hard for, like my mother. She's starstruck. I wouldn't use the word starstruck. That was just a filler word, I guess. But she's very unhappy with the fact that this cow is going to be put down on Saturday. She doesn't want to be around when it's happening. It just, her and many other people are probably the same way, just terrible. It's awful. But we don't even consider the concept when you sit down at Outback Steakhouse or wherever you go to get any kind of Wendy's to get a cheeseburger. That's the way you put it to me, and I said, you know what?
You wouldn't think twice about pulling through Wendy's tomorrow and getting a freaking Baconator with cheese.
No.
And moving on with your life. But by God, if you're eating a steak that came from Ferdinand, you're going to be a little heart hurt that night eating dinner.
Well, it just puts you in tune with what's really happening. When you sit down at all these restaurants, you don't think of the fact that there are slaughterhouses putting these things on conveyor belts and running them through God knows what kind of, and contraption.
How many are going through every day?
Right.
Well, Ferdinand is something, this has been a 2-year process.
Right.
From calf to full-grown bull to now time to be harvested.
Mm-hmm.
And, say what you want about, hunting, if you're against it or you're an animal lover. I don't disagree with you. Bobby is an avid animal lover.
Right.
He has been since he was a kid.
But he's also an avid hunter when the time comes.
And I think that it takes having done it to understand. I have this feeling right now talking about it, and it's because I felt it. And it's, when you take a life of an animal that is for a purpose, not just for the sake of taking it, it's a super humbling experience.
Right, I agree.
It makes you feel some type of way for sure. It's like,
it's supposed to.
I know.
You're taking the life of something and eating it.
And it's supposed to. It's supposed to mean something. And that's like Doug and Darlene, phenomenal people. Do I think that by any means they want to go out there Saturday and put this freaking cow down? No. If I had to guess, Darlene probably feels a lot like your mom does, and she hates that they're going to do it. But they do this for a purpose.
Right.
And, understanding your purpose behind it is definitely important. And also understanding the weight that it carries. If you ever look at, more ancient cultures like, Native American culture, the amount of value they put on taking life was incredible. And we have completely devalued that by us not having to take the life of things we're going to eat so frequently that now we see it as a sport rather than a means of survival.
Right, and that's the crazy thing.
We put a stigma on taking life because it is a sport to some people, but a lot of people don't understand that there are also people that hunt to provide food for their family.
Well, once upon a time, that sport was the means of survival.
Yeah, just because I don't want to go to the store and buy slaughtered house cattle for an entire year, because I've raised one of my own that I've cared for and loved as a family pet, and then put down with love and affection. I get that that's a weird thing for people to grasp, that you can kill something with love and affection, but that cow is going to be treated very well in death because of the people who are doing it, not someone who's just raising a 2,000 head of cattle and putting 100 of them through a conveyor belt a day to murder them and send them out to packing plants.
And I don't mean to go back. I do want to address it before we move on too far that I forget. I didn't quite literally. Yes, there will be a bullet put in that cow, but they go about it in a way. Obviously, this isn't their first time. They have a friend that butchers it and helps them put the cow down. There's a method to this. They're not just these animals going out and killing a cow. There's lots of thought put into this.
They're not taking down a shotgun outside and popping their cow.
Yeah, So I just wanted to make that clear to anybody listening.
It's a very controlled method, but as someone who has been a hunter for multiple years, putting the final blow onto an animal that you're gonna eat and that you then get from a butcher and have this meat, it takes you right back to that moment of death. Especially if you've ever come up on an animal that wasn't all the way dead after taking that shot. Mm-hmm. It's an odd feeling to see something that you really would have liked to have put down with no pain
go down without it.
and
with it.
and then you get up to them and like a deer's squalling, and you're like, I need to do this very quickly and be done with it, because it's like, that's not what I was trying to do.
That's not what you want, no.
I get, yeah, I am hunting. I am aiming to kill you, but at the same time, like, I'm not out here to cause suffering from this animal.
Right.
I'm out here to provide for myself and a family. And, you know, I'm not out here to kill trophy bucks.
No.
If anything, if I got deer hunting, yeah, I'm probably going to look for a time around a doe day and go brown and down to pack a freezer full of meat, not because I want to hang an 8-point on my wall.
Right.
That's not ever going to be the reason I go out to hunt.
Absolutely, 100% I agree.
And, you know, that's just not what I'm out there to do. But, you know, I do agree with Doug and Darlene. Ferdinand is 100%. A dick.
And I will say that meat is hands down 10 times healthier and better than any meat you get from any supermarket.
For those of you who don't know, the way that you raise any farm animal for slaughter, if that animal has a high level of stress, it actually taints your meat. So if you think about any farm that has 2,000 to 20,000 head of cattle, and they are put through this incredibly stressful process that sends them to death, that toxin from the stress seeps into your meat, and it's something that you get. Whereas little old Ferdinand over here, who's ran around and rammed children and bit at people and just done whatever the hell he wants to do for his entire life and been shown love by the people he sees as the people that care for him, who's not a dick to. He's had no stress. He's had none of that seep into his muscles, into his meat, and you know, you get such a different experience from that.
Right.
It's something that you will not know if you've never had true from farm to table cattle or any animal, whether that's bacon or anything. You got to understand, like, whether you agree with this process or not, that what Doug and Darlene are doing, like, you're out there buying this stuff from the store from places far worse than this.
Right. You're just not doing the killing.
No, you're just not having to see it.
Right.
I hate it because it hits me right in the heart to have to deal with it. But at the same time, I'm very appreciative of it.
That is what it does for me.
It does it. It humbles you,
yep.
Something fierce. And it takes me back to the first time I ever cleaned a deer. I was super young. I mean, I was a kid, but I didn't kill this deer. It was the first one that he wanted me to clean. So I didn't hunt with my dad, which is like the traditional way I guess you would see a lot of people coming up as hunters.
Right.
My dad is not an avid hunter. So I went with a family friend, and he was the one that brought me up around guns and hunting. Well, he went bow hunting one day, and he killed a deer through a gut shot bow hunting. For those of you who don't know, is like the worst possible way if you have to clean a deer after you've taken a gut shot. It's bad. It's gross. It's
your
stinky.
face says it all right now.
Yeah, it's bad. It's bad. And I was young. I was a kid. And he was like, I want you to help me clean this deer so you learn how to do it.
Yeah.
He was like, and I'm choosing this deer to make it your first one for a reason. So you understand how bad it can possibly be, but you also need to understand what it's like to do this. And man, he made me string that freaking doe up at like 8 or 9 or however old I was from a tree. I had to pull it up by a fucking rope and tie it off and, start from the ankles down of skinning and cleaning. And we butchered it there that day by ourselves. And it was super humbling. The amount of work that it takes to do it, for one, and to know that, like, this is something that you've done yourself when you're done. I mean, like, taking the meat inside to pack it away and store it, like, every time you pull one of those little white freaking paper things out of the freezer, you're like, I did this. I didn't take this to a butcher.
Right.
Like, I have physically cut this meat. And it's a good feeling. And at the same time, it's also, you're going to think to that moment of wanting to throw up because it's incredibly gross dealing with this stench of a gut shot.
Right.
But like it takes you back to that, and also a sense of pride, and like, I invested this time into this animal. Like it's an amount of respect for that animal. It's not like I killed it and left it there to be eaten by coyotes, or I killed it and someone else took care of it. No, like, for you to kill something, carry it out of the woods, take it to your house and butcher it yourself is an incredibly humbling experience and an incredibly respectful experience, which I think that, a lot of us need more of. We need to understand what that's like.
And I'm not saying that's the way to do it. Because I'm sure there are probably other ways that people can get in tune with the reality of things. But that's just one of the easiest ways to go back to do it how it was done for hundreds and thousands of years. You know, it's just, it's cut off from society nowadays in such a massive way
we're
that
blind.
so many people are blind to it. Right. Because honestly, I feel like I'm fairly in tune with it, especially as much hunting and stuff. Like, we're putting down a cow this Saturday. I'll be helping with it probably. And I just don't fully grasp it. So for me to know that, I can only imagine some people.
Not until you're back in that scenario again.
Right.
It's something that you can't really just like sitting here now. I can't be like, I couldn't tell you how it felt. Like, it's just something that like, it's a different feeling every time.
Right.
It's something that hits you differently every time.
And imagine if you had to do that for every single meal. That was your only. Imagine if you didn't have a store to go to and, oh, well, I didn't kill anything this week. I can go down to the grocery store and pick up some meat. No.
But if you were looking for a big score every 2 or 3 months to feed your family, like a cow or a deer or an elk to feed multiple months at a time, like, it would change your entire outlook on things.
Completely.
Because you would constantly be in that cycle of a little bit of mourning. It's very odd to say that something you have no relationship with that you mourn, but it's like a little bit of mourning and also a sense of pride that of being a dominating predator. Because, you know, at the end of the day, humans are predators.
Oh, yeah.
We lived thousands of years as predators. And, you know, to see that realized in a sense of hunting, not from a sense of raising something to be killed, but from a hunting standpoint, actually executing that primal domination as far as a predator is concerned is something wild.
Absolutely.
And people say, oh yeah, but rifle hunting ain't fair. Or go try to fucking bow hunt. Because if you ever see a deer walk 15 feet from you and catch wind of your scent and the way that they look at you when you're completely hidden and sitting completely still is one of the most humbling things you'll ever see.
Also one of the most terrifying.
Yeah, because
you wouldn't believe it.
Fuck. Everybody think, oh, deer are so sweet. Nah, you have an 8-point standing 15 feet from you and you're sitting on the ground hunting, not in a tree stand.
And he towers you.
You're sweating a little bit because that bastard, he would whoop your ass if all you had was a bow. To deal with this big ass thing.
Oh yeah.
You ain't gonna outrun it.
Sure. No.
It's more agile and faster than you.
You better hope he runs.
But you know, that's just it's you know, that experience is super humbling. That takes us back to like the days in that soybean field up there at Western.
Oh, I know. Well, it takes me back to a lot of things. The more you talk about this, the more I want to just cat trail on the whole hunting and things like that.
But not to get sidetracked.
No, we did have a purpose with where we wanted to go with Ferdinand, but I do like that conversation at any time, and I think that's something we need to hit on in the future, just because we both have unique backgrounds and ideas as far as that type of lifestyle.
The way we came up in that lifestyle is very different. I mean, you came from a very familial place of growing up as a hunter and gatherer, like to learn that portion of lifestyle, which is something a lot of people don't get, and we're rural folk that were brought up that way. But at the same time, like that didn't come from my familial side of things. That was just something that I was interested in from a young age, and we had very close friends that were avid hunters. Like he was a trophy hunter at one point, but really it was mostly to pack the freezer and move on to the next year.
Oh yeah.
You just always hunted something that would be nice to hang on the wall as well.
Of course, yeah. If you can check both boxes, why not?
Yeah, but at the same time, if it came down to the end of the season and you saw a doe, if it was a big doe, you were going home with a doe.
Right.
But I digress.
Where we wanted to originally go with that, before we rabbit trailed, was just the change in times. That was one of the things that kind of hit us about this story. I think you started by pointing out that, 20, 30, 50, however many years ago, this would be a lot different.
Yeah,
the outlook on it would be a lot different.
This wasn't even abnormal.
No
one would have batted an eye. The mothers in the household would not have been stressed out about it. They wouldn't have been heartfelt about it.
Only because they probably saw it a little more often.
Well, yeah, it was an every other week, every other month kind of an ordeal where this is how we fed our family constantly. It was a way of life. And yeah, like my dad, who was not an avid hunter, did grow up on a farm.
Mm-hmm.
A farm that raised animals for food. Like, granted, they raised horses for show, but like, they raised animals for food, and his grandfather even more so.
Right.
I mean, in that generation, so like not our grandparents, but our great-grandparents,
Mm-hmm.
that generation, man, they were kind of ruthless.
Yeah.
Into our perspective, not to them.
Those
They
times were kind of ruthless.
They were not like, I don't know, if you look into like PETA or something today, they would probably have something to say about it, but it wasn't like we were abusive to animals then. It was, I mean, we didn't have slaughterhouses that supplied meat for the entire country. That
Right.
was small family farms provided for small families,
Mm-hmm.
and that's how people live. So they did all of that themselves, and it was a lot more ruthless as far as how we perceive it. But to them, it was just everyday life, and they would think we're the psychotic ones for going to the store and buying meat rather
Right.
than
Keeping
having
a
it at home.
thousand of them caged in and then run them through
You're like,
almost
God,
like
you're a monster. At least I like loved old Penelope the cow.
I didn't put him in a 4x8 cubicle and
Yeah.
No, there's.
They would think we're
But
monsters.
why is it like that? What causes that flip to where? And that's my argument. Not to go back on the hunting thing, but so many people talk about, well, hunting's not a sport. You're taking advantage of wild, animals. They can't fight back, and all those funny retorts that people have. Retorts. But yeah, it really don't get me laughing. It really throws me off that we are the ones that are provoked as hunters when nobody goes after these. I'm not saying nobody, but most people don't go after these huge companies that hang cows up and run them in front of a knife on a conveyor
people
belt.
like PETA do, and they're that's a large scale, but agreed. Like, well, and people aren't attacking small time farmers that raise food for themselves. Large corporations do go after the large butchering corporations. Let's throw that out there. You do have very large scale animal rights activists that go after these large butchers, but those people don't focus at all on small time.
But I can't
because
speak.
that's a way of life.
Yeah.
And nobody bats an eye. But there are activists that hate hunting as a sport. But if you look at it for what it is, it's a population control for one.
That's a big thing that people overlook a lot.
Those animals would die regardless of overpopulation, sickness, disease, overcrowding to where they would be in people's places getting hit by cars. People would die from these animals running rampant. And
Granted, there's a disclosure that is with proper hunting.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hunting that goes on, I do know, that doesn't necessarily represent hunters in the best of.
No, but that's with anything.
Right, exactly.
That goes back to a masculinity talk about do people misrepresent masculinity? Yes, but for the 90% of dudes who are very masculine men, like, no, they don't misrepresent masculinity, and yet it's still targeted for the 10% that are shitheads.
Yeah.
Same goes for hunters.
Fair enough.
You have the misrepresentation crowd, the poachers, the overhunters, the jackanapes out there looking for that next big score.
It's called high grading. You can do it in hunting, you can do it in timber, hell, you can do it in anything. And it kills me. But just the thought of...
It loses its entire purpose, though, of
Right.
being in tune with your lifestyle. And that's really the overall look at this conversation, is how far out of touch we are with our lifestyle.
With what we are and what we need to survive. And
Yeah, I think that's something we got to get back to at some point. I'm not telling you to go buy a cow and raise it and kill it yourself. I'm just saying to be more mindful of what it takes for us to live this lifestyle and understand that somehow. Like, whether that is, having a friend that we live in a rural place. People with farm animals. I promise you.
Right.
Everyone that probably listens to this podcast knows someone with farm animals.
Right.
It's just the area we live in, and we haven't spread that far yet. But, you got to
say that, and we've got people listening in California right now.
But you got to be in tune with that. Like, you got to understand that
it's very important.
It's heartfelt. It hurts, but it's necessary. And there is a way to do it to be respectful and not be a monster like organizations like PETA would make you feel like you are for doing it. There's a way to do it and be respectful and not be a monster. There's 90% of the people out there that do these things do them very respectfully and to not be a monster because they're just like us. They have morals, and it hurts like hell to go out there and to butcher something.
Mm-hmm.
It does, but it's also necessary, and you can't understand that without ever having it be a part of your life. So in some way, I'm not telling you have to be the one that pulls the trigger. I'm not telling you have to be the one that butchers it, but there are ways to understand.
Be more conscious of it. Mm-hmm. Just like with anything else in this podcast, we're not telling you, like Cody said, to go out and buy a calf, raise it, and butcher it. But the next time you run through McDonald's, hopefully you're not running through there often, but if you are, and you get a double quarter pounder with no cheese, because you're crazy and don't like cheese, think about where that patty of meat come from that you need to walk, talk, and whatever else you do. That's the main driver from this, because we look at it in a negative way so often, but we don't realize that we're just ignorant to the fact that it goes on all the time.
It's a necessity, man. And I know that people live as vegans and people live as vegetarians, and so they have the argument that it's not a necessity. But people have lived thousands and thousands of years as hunters and gatherers. Mm-hmm. And so, to think that over the course of 100, we're vegans and vegetarians, maybe 100 years of people claiming that they can pull off being vegan and vegetarian. No, it takes thousands of years to be able to evolve a diet of an entire species to be able to do that. It's not feasible. Not everyone can be a vegan or a vegetarian. This is still a necessity at this point.
Yeah.
So don't lose sight of that for anyone who it might be a vegan or vegetarian that listens to this. Like, I understand you and where you're coming from and your point of view, but also understand that it is quite physically not possible for everyone in the human race to be a vegetarian at this time. It will take a very long time before that could ever be a possibility, and that would take, massive amounts of effort to try to make that an evolutionary thing.
Right. And it's not one that needs to be taken,
in your opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree with that too.
Things are working the way we have it, but just
I'm
be
not
more
a vegetarian.
appreciative and in tune with what's happening.
I agree that our process behind meat production is flawed, and it can be fucked up if you've ever had to sit through a presentation where you see what actually happens.
Right.
But I am also a person that would still not go so far as to stop eating meat.
No.
One, because I fucking love meat, so that's kind of important. But also because I have a healthy understanding and respect for the meat that I do eat and I take,
right,
or I harvest myself. I have a healthy respect for that. Mm-hmm. I understand where it comes from and what it takes to get it. And I think that's the most important thing that I've learned from the process of learning how to hunt and clean your own meat is I know what it takes to get that. So if someone hands me, 2 bricks of deer meat, like, I know what it takes to get that shit, mm-hmm. and I'm very appreciative of where it comes from.
Damn right. And when you've got it on your plate,
that doesn't make that, to me, like, as long as I understand and respect where it comes from, like, I'm not being an immoral person by consuming meat. You might disagree with me. I'm fine for you to disagree with me on that, but that is my stance because I do come from a place of healthy understanding of that portion of life.
Yeah.
And, things get hunted. Hate to break it to you. Let your fucking cat out your front door for an afternoon, and I bet you something dead is on your porch when you come home. And that cat could have never been outside in its entire life. But they're fucking animals, man. They're murderers. They're murderers. But that is the circle of life, man. You have predators and prey.
Right.
Humans are predators. Hate to break it to you. We're not little omnivores, man. We were not built to be bunny rabbits.
Think about how many chickens, I don't even want to go crazy with the numbers because it could honestly scare some people if they thought about it, but the next time you sit down with a steak on your plate and you don't finish it and you go to throw that in the trash, think about that poor cow that just got butchered so that you could eat, and you're going to throw it in the trash?
Because you ordered a 8-ounce steak where 6 would have done.
Mm-hmm.
Because we don't give a shit.
Yeah.
We don't understand. I'm not saying I'm not guilty of it.
No,
I'm not calling you out for doing
it.
But
it's a thing.
It's a thing for us all to be better mindful of. I'm not
Absolutely.
telling you that I'm not out of touch with it myself until old Ferdinand rolls around. I'm like, fuck.
Damn.
But again, with our rabbit trails, but
But I think we hit it.
I think we did too.
I mean, fairly concisely too. I mean, is there anything that you missed out on saying that you just wanted to say?
We didn't really go into the way times have changed. I mean, we did very briefly, but that could be a whole nother episode.
I just that could apply to anything and everything.
I think it
Times
will.
have changed with a lot of things.
I think it will.
So I feel like that would be a talk in its own if you wanted to cover more than just the fact that means of food and things like that, you know?
Totally fine.
Cool.
Talk for another day. I don't want... Sorry for you guys to get our little, back and forth about our planning here. That's just what you get with... That's what you get with genuine being, bitch.
It's just a matter of being more conscious of what you eat, where it comes from, and not necessarily to jump to any conclusions when you see a source of food that's maybe not already processed and ready for you, It's just...
If you, whether you're a carnivore or omnivore or you're straight up a vegetarian or vegan, take some time to appreciate the other factors from everyone else. So appreciate where your food comes from, appreciate their standpoint and why they think that way, because if you do look at this from an objective standpoint, it is easy to see how they chose to live that lifestyle, because
Right.
It is fairly brutal. It is tough. It's something that takes understanding and the ability to say, this is a necessity, so I can endure.
Right.
I endure the bad for the purpose that it serves for the good.
Completely.
And, having a better understanding of that can help us with all aspects of life, because in essence, that is what our lives are. It is enduring the bad to benefit from the good, because your life is going to be full of shit that you don't want to happen, that is inevitably going to happen,
When you don't want it to happen.
that you got to deal with and get back to the good.
Yeah.
So, if we can be a little bit more conscious to find that in smaller things, the big things won't hit us as hard.
Right.
You know?
How easy, not to throw you a curveball, how easy do you think it would be for Doug to call somebody to put that cow down himself, considering he's the one who feeds it day in and day out and didn't want to see it die? How easy do you think it would be for him to do that? Fairly easy.
Super easy.
How hard do you think it is for him to go down there Saturday morning, wake that cow up? He probably won't wake him up.
Now, that cow will be out there fucking around with something.
But you get what I'm saying. And a lot of respect for Doug on that.
It takes a lot to look at something you've raised from a child. Not to make that sound weird for anybody listening, but if something you've raised is from its point of childhood to its adulthood and its physical maturity, it's tough to make that decision and follow it through by yourself.
Right.
I respect him a ton for that. I respect him for what he does as far as harvesting his own food for his family, because, at the end of the day, I would rather him eat his own food than send money to big, meat producing companies.
100%.
Because I don't like the process they do either. I'm not going to tell you I do. Do I support it? Because I do eat meat a lot. Yeah, I do. And I wish I did less. If I had the means to do what Doug does,
One day.
100% I would.
Yep.
Because I definitely believe that Ferdinand's position, as shitty as it is for that old dude, I hate it for him, but it's a much better lifestyle than cattle are getting from big meat, like from Tyson chicken or,
Completely.
But I respect him a lot for doing that, and for, having the guts to stand out there and stand by his morals and his beliefs for how he wants to lead his life.
Yeah.
And be mature enough to factor that into his everyday life, That's something we all need to do better at, because I do think it has its place as far as
It does.
maturity and growth for you to do more than just eat,
Mm-hmm.
to handle the bullshit, because bullshit's coming, guys, always.
And it's there whether you're doing it or not.
Yep.
So
Better to understand it than to live in ignorance.
absolutely. That's
That
the best way
goes-
to put that. That's the best way to close that.
I know, and that goes for anything. Keep
Yeah.
that in mind. Better to understand something than live in ignorance. That is my challenge for you. Find something in your life that you feel a little bit off about, but that you don't know enough about, and try to understand it rather than just hate it.
Yeah. Amen.
On that, man, after a very dark episode of Genuine Being, I promise they are not all like this for anyone who's just tuning in now.
Nah. We'll take that into consideration with the next episode.
Yeah,
Might get a
maybe
little
I'll
crazy.
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 But as always, thank you guys for tuning in. You know, this was a fairly heartfelt episode. I hope you guys do get that from us because it is something that I'm fairly passionate about, or at least have a lot of feeling about.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whether it's good or bad. So,
Good deal.
all right, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Hope you enjoyed, and catch you later.
Later.